Hey class, want to hear a funny story? So today is lesson 6 and I started recording earlier and did the entire lesson. Halfway through though, my dad called me and we were discussing puppies and where to go and look at them and whatnot, and I could hear it buzzing, and so I knew he probably was calling about the puppies, and I was like, oh, don't mind the buzzing if you can hear it in the recording, haha. Guess what the recording did? It stopped 3 minutes into the video. So here I am again. I'm going to teach the entire lesson all over again, but this time hopefully you get to see it. All right, so today we're factoring, and this is part 3, lesson 6. And the fish is still alive and well. His color is super vibrant now. Fresh water and food can do that. All right, so factoring. Today the title of the lesson is Factoring a Trinomial when the leading coefficient is 1. So if you look at the first example there, oh, there's a mark from where I did the lesson already. Oh, don't tell me my pen is working. All right, that tells you how my day is going. Hope yours is better. All right, so x squared minus 2x minus 48, that is a trinomial. The leading coefficient, meaning the number in front, okay? The number in front of x squared is that invisible 1. So that's what we're going to be doing today, factoring that. And if you recall from the other lesson before this, lesson 5, factoring is writing a trinomial as a product of two binomials, okay? So we're going to go from a trinomial to two of those binomial bubbles. So what we're going to do today, actually, is start off with the two bubbles. So just a little bit of review. We are going to multiply these two. So when you multiply your two binomial bubbles, you could either FOIL, use the first, outer, inner, last method, or you could use that box method, and I will use the FOIL method for this one. So first times first, x times x gives you x squared. Outer times outer, x times -5 gives you -5x. Okay, inner times inner, 7 times x gives you 7x. And then last times last gives you 7 times -5, which is -35. Okay, and then if you recall, you need to combine the like terms. So the first term is squared, the two middle terms are linear, just x terms, and then your last is a constant, no x. So these are the two terms that you can combine, and then your final answer is x squared -5x plus 7x is positive 2x, and then your minus 35 at the end. So the important things that we need to see from this: our first times our first gave us this x squared, and that kind of tagged along all the way to our answer. The last times our last was that -35, which also tagged along all the way to our answer. But what you should notice is that that last, the outer and the inner, the two numbers, they're being multiplied by the variables both times, and then they give us those two terms that we combine to get that middle linear term. So the first times the first stays the same. The last times the last stays the same. The outer and the inner are what combine. Okay, that's really important for what we're doing today, because we're going to start with this trinomial and say, well, how do I go from here and end up here? Okay, so we're working backwards today. And I've got hopefully an easier method to help you visualize that as we go. But let's look at number 1. X squared minus 2x minus 48. So we know that we're trying to make this into two binomial bubbles. Okay, we're factoring. What was originally multiplied to give us this trinomial? Well, being that our leading coefficient is 1, it should be a little more simple, because we want to know what times what, our first times our first, gives us an x squared. And since our leading coefficient is 1, we don't have to worry about any numbers. It's just some x times another x that gives us x squared. So x is the only thing that could go there. But then we need to come up with the two numbers. So here is kind of the process to do that. We know, because of this example over here, that are last times our last, we only have two numbers that we're trying to figure out, but they multiply and give us that number that tags along. And then we have to come up with the two numbers that combine and give us the middle term. So what that tells us is that we know that these two numbers have to multiply to give us that negative 48. Okay, so that narrows down our search for these two numbers rather than just guessing and checking all day long. It narrows down our search a lot because two numbers that multiply to give you negative 48. So what you can do is list the factors of 48. Okay, remember factors are two numbers that multiply and give you that 48. So again, if you struggle with coming up with that, divide instead. So we know, first of all, 1 times 48 will give you 48. Does 48 divide by 2? It's even, so yes. 2 times, think of hours in a day. 2 times 24. Okay, if you had 4 days there. Just kidding, 2 days. All right, you'd have 48 hours. So does 48 divide by 3? Yes, and you get 16. Does 48 divide by 4? Yes, and you get 12. Does 48 divide by 5? Oops, I did that wrong. No, right? Because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. Does 48 divide by 6? Yes, you get 8. Does 48 divide by 7? No. Remember, you're getting decimals, so that's not a factor. And then 8 is the next number we need to check, but it's already in our list. So we're already circling back to the other side of our factor list, which means we're done. Okay, these are all of our factors of 48. And so now, basically, like I said, we've narrowed down our search for those two numbers to only this list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different combinations of what those numbers could be. And so the important part now, just like what we did over here, numbers don't change. But when we multiplied our outer and our inner, they combined. What are you doing when you're combining like terms? We're adding them, okay? Here when you multiplied your last times last, you multiplied, but when you're combining like terms here, you're adding. It was negative 5x plus 7x, okay? And we got that positive 2x. So we need to find the two numbers over here in our list of factors that when we combine them, we get that middle term, okay? So another twist to the story is that it's a negative 48. So if you're multiplying two numbers together and getting a negative, only one of your numbers is negative and the other one must be positive. But then when you're combining them and getting a negative 2, what does that tell you about the two numbers? Is the higher number or the smaller number going to be negative? If when you add them, you get a negative answer still. The bigger number. So the bigger number is going to be negative. So over here, again, this is another thing you could guess and check if your brain doesn't quite operate that quickly. But you already know they multiply and give you that negative 48, but they need to add together and give you a negative 2. And we just established that the higher number needs to be negative. So go through and just check them. Okay, what's 1 plus negative 48? Negative 47, right? So that's not the one. 2 plus negative 24. Okay, plug it in, do it in your head. You get negative 22. So we're nowhere near negative 2. So if you can see that, that would mean you need to go farther down the list. What two numbers have a difference of 2 between them? Okay, 6 and 8. So if 8 is negative, then negative 8 plus 6 or 6 plus negative 8 gives you negative 2. All right, so that is our combo that we're looking for, 6 and negative 8. So back in your bubble, you would plug in positive 6, so add 6, and then minus 8, and you're subtracting 8. And that's your answer, okay? So pretty simple, actually. You're just trying to figure out what two numbers multiply to give you negative 48, but when you add them, you get negative 2. So here's my graphic or organized way of helping you do this. Basically, I just call it the X factor. And you place that negative 48 on the top of the X and the negative 2 on the bottom. And then you should ask yourself, so that constant term goes at the top, the middle term, the one they add together goes at the bottom. And you should ask yourself, what times what gives you negative 48, but when you add them together, you get negative 2. And then if you need to, list your factors of 48. Some people can do that in their head, and that's great. But if you need to list the factors of 48, that top number, because remember, you're always multiplying to get the top number, list them, and then once you find them, you basically just plug them into that x. Oh, so it was a 6 and a negative 8. And then those are the two numbers that go in your bubble. And you're done. One of the beauties of factoring is that since it is unfoiling, or the reverse process of that, is you can easily check your answer. I know how much you guys love doing that. So if you were to refoil these two binomial bubbles, you should get what you started with, okay? So if you did first times first, actually let me do the box here. I'm gonna come down here, over here. If you were to rebox or foil this, okay, you have x plus 6 and x minus 8. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8, negative 8x. X times 6, 6x. 6 times negative 8, negative 48. And then when you combine your like terms, 6x and negative 8x, you get x squared minus 2x minus 48. Ta-da! That's what we had there. So we did it right. Okay? Cool. Moving on. Number 2. 2x squared plus 12x minus 14. What? 2. But Miss Mollenauer, we're factoring when the leading coefficient is 1. That leading coefficient is 2, not 1. Ah, yes, wise student, but what did I say the first step of factoring was? First step of factoring. Factor out the common monomial. Yeah. So, what you should check to see every time you're factoring, is there anything you can factor out of each term? 2x squared plus 12x minus 14. They're all even. So you can factor out a 2 from each term. What that looks like then, factoring out a 2. What's left? Well, just x squared. 12x divided by 2 is 6x. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. There you go, folks. Factor out that common monomial. Now, x squared plus 6x minus 7 is what we're trying to break down. Okay, so the 2's just kind of chilling out here to the side for a while. So we're trying to factor this trinomial down. Make your x off to the side. What number goes at the top? Negative 7. What number goes at the bottom? 6. And then what should you be asking yourself? What times what gives you negative 7? But when you add them together, you get 6. So again, if you need to, list your factors of 7. 1 and 7. 7 divided by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. So those are only possibilities. And so since it's negative 7, but positive 6, it would have to be 7 and negative 1. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. 7 plus negative 1, or 7 minus 1, is positive 6. So that's what gets plugged into your bubbles. You get an x plus 7 and an x minus 1. But don't forget the common monomial that we factored out at the very beginning. Reattach it at the end. Okay, so that is your final answer. 2 times the quantity x plus 7 times the quantity x minus 1. Cool? So, all right, you are going to do number 3, 4, 5, 6 on your own. 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? I am going to do number 7 with you. Number 7. Okay, first step of factoring. Is there a common monomial? No. Okay, so leading coefficient is 1. Make your x. What number goes at the top? 52. What number goes at the bottom? Negative 7. What times what gives you 52, but when you add them together, you get negative 7. Okay, so if you're struggling, list your factors of 52. 1 and 52. It's even, so it does divide by 2. 2 and 26. Okay. Does 52 divide by 3? No, there's a decimal. Okay. 52 divided by 4? 13. 52 divided by 5? No, it does not end in a 5 or 0. 52 divided by 6? No. 52 divided by 7? No, just kidding. Yes. Wait. I did 56 for some reason. 52 divided by 7? No. 52 divided by 8? No. 52 divided by 9? No. 52 divided by 10? No. 11, 12, 13? Yes. Okay? So these are all of our factors of 52, just those 3 sets. So those are the only possibilities that could go in our X factor here, or our 2 bubbles. So since you're multiplying them together and getting a positive, but adding them together and getting a negative, what does that mean for the signs of both of your numbers? They need to be negative. So if you have negative 1 plus negative 52, you get negative 53. If you do negative 2 plus negative 26, okay, negative 28, still not negative 7. If you do negative 4 plus negative 13, you get negative 17. That's not negative 7. We want negative 7. None of those combinations are giving us what we want, other than the multiplication at the top. They're not giving us that negative 7. That might happen. Okay, so what that means is that this trinomial is not factorable. And that's okay. Later on, we'll learn what that means for that quadratic function, but for right now, it's just not factorable. So leave it like that. In the 4 that you're doing on your own, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Look for those common monomials, and then set up your X factor, find those 2 numbers, and it may be possible that one of them is not factorable. I'm not saying it is, not saying it's not. It's always possible, okay? Do that on your own. Also, I'm gonna give you an opportunity here. The first 5 students to either comment on this video or send me a personal email with your initials, first and last initials, and your period, which period I have you in class. First 5 students to message me on the video or send me a private email, I'll give you a bonus point. All right, well, have fun and enjoy the rest of your day. Miss you. Bye.